Today, we get to say we want to. So, if you haven't attended one of these forums before, well, actually, let's do this. How many people have been to one of these Q&As with Alex and I before? Okay, good. A bunch of you have not. So if you have not been here before, done this before, it's pretty simple. I mean, it was just amazing what happened. And to all of us, I think the thing that we're reflecting on, right, is what pride we all brought to this community, what joy we brought, and how, and we talked about this in so many ways, even as we were riding through the parade, is how we brought everybody together throughout Braves country. There were just so many faces from all across this community that were out there just so proud to be an Atlanta Braves fan. And, you know, that obviously gives us, it's just so fantastic for all of us to know that we created that pride and that joy, and specifically the person that's mainly responsible is Alex Antopoulos. So Alex, thank you very much. With that, I'll kick it off if you want to say anything, and then we'll jump straight into Q&A. Like I said, we're happy to answer anything that's out there. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is on, yeah. You know, I came in a little earlier. I was in my office, and I could see the field. Derek and his group did an amazing job, obviously, building the battery in this ballpark. I'm still amazed every day I come into work. But the field is just, I asked them, like, this is unbelievable. Just Sunday morning, it's as packed as I've ever seen it, and they said the turnout is as good as we've ever had here. So obviously, it's credit to everybody in this room. For everybody that put up their hand that's been here in the past. I know in the past there may have been some boos, so it's nice to finally get cheers. So, but, you know, beyond that, obviously, like Derek said, we will answer any question you have. And look, I'm going to ask myself a question. Why haven't you signed Freddie Freeman yet? And when are you going to sign him? Because I know I'm going to get asked that, and I'll just save everybody the time. Yeah. So I know I've come out and said same thing 400 times, right? You guys, I'm sure, have listened on the radio or read stuff. We love him, we want to stay, we want to keep him, blah, 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 blah. So, obviously, you guys are the A-listers. You guys are the ones that support the team. That means a lot to me because you guys are the ones that, you know, they allow us to go sign players. And the support you guys give us is huge and allows me to do my job. And the more I have to work with, the more product we have and the better it is for the community. So there is certainly an importance from my side to tell you whatever I can, you know, but also to not break any rules and so on. So this will be a little bit more expansive. Obviously, he's a great player, Hall of Fame player. I've said all those things too. A player who's that good, right? And he's so good and elite. And what you see on TV, not only is he a great player, he's a great human being, right? And all the stuff he tells you about, I love Atlanta, and I want to be, it's all true. There's no, is one of the most sincere guys ever in the world. And he truly wants to be here and so on. Now, that being said, he's earned the right to get to this point. Obviously, he signed the first deal. Here was an 8-year deal. And, you know, he's been worth every penny of that deal. He's done everything he can for the organization. And I've been here 4 years, and I can tell you many times he's helped me as a GM. Hey, we're trying to sign so-and-so. We're trying to trade for so-and-so. And he has friends across the league and so on. That being said, a player like this, there's not too many of them around, right? And if you look back, there's very few Freddie Freemans in this world. So sometimes, to figure out what's the value, right? Like, I think as fans, you guys would all say, blank check, blank check, blank check. Sure, I get it, trust me. And we all can kind of feel the same way. We want him here, obviously. But sometimes, because he's so special and so unique, and I can't point to 3 or 4 other players that are exactly like him. There really isn't, right? When you really take a look at what he's done over the course of his career in Atlanta, being a great guy, being an elite player. You know, the thing that doesn't get talked about enough, he plays every single day. Go look at his games played. So I think a Freddie Freeman contract is going to be the first contract of its kind. You know what I mean? So, and sometimes that just takes time to figure out, like, there's no one to point to, right? There's no other examples to point to, and to try to establish value and things like that. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of time. That doesn't mean we don't want him. We don't want him to stay. He deserves whatever he's going to get. Hopefully it's going to be from us. But we've seen this with a lot of other star players. Sometimes it just takes time to figure out what is the right amount, right? And we easily could say it's whatever amount he wants. And you know, obviously there's certainly, because we won a World Series and everything he's done, I understand that. But I can tell you this, we are committed to getting a deal done with him. He wants to be here, that's absolutely true. I don't care when it gets done, right? If it's tomorrow, if it's a month from now, 2 weeks from now, as long as it's done and he's back and he's with us and he's in spring training. But I think because of how good he is and what he's done in the past, it might take a little time just to see exactly what's the right deal, where he's happy and it works for us to put a team together and so on. So trust me, I would have loved to have an announcement a week ago, right after the World Series, during the World Series. You know, it just doesn't always go that way. But so I'll just get the last one first. So I guess people were saying, oh, Soroka could be an on-tender. That's not happening. So I don't know. No one asked me about it. So, but it was he's really good, obviously, and obviously he's missed time. He's been hurt. You know, with Mike specifically, and this was kind of, it's a similar, this is my approach on this. So when we signed Dallas Keuchel 2 years ago in the middle of the season, and you know, he hadn't had a spring training and so on, and he had like 2 rehab starts in Rome, and that's it, we activate him. There's a lot of talk before, oh, he hasn't pitched in a while, how's he gonna be? Guys that are strike throwers and just have that ability to repeat their delivery, I don't worry about them. So Mike is a big time, you know, that guy could close his eyes and throw a strike. I really believe it. So because he's so polished and he's a strike thrower, and it's not a shoulder, it isn't an elbow and so on, once his legs are strong and everything's strong, I expect him to be, I don't want to put any expectations on him, but I don't see why he won't be Mike Soroka. You know, his elbow's great, his shoulder's great. The work ethic is fantastic. He works really hard. And he's still really young. Very excited to get back. So there's this scenario, he's back opening day, but I always ask, like, what's the worst case scenario? You know, what if things are slowed up, he's sore, we need to give him days off, whatever it might be. They've told me they feel like worst case scenario would be mid-May. But knowing Ronald and how hard he works and how much he prepares, I think but they also think there's, you know, there's more of a chance that he's ready opening day than the opposite. So, you know, we're going to go into this thinking, okay, we're going to have him for the majority of the year. Knowing Ronald, he's going to come into spring training, he's going to say he feels great. I mean, he kind of joked around that he wanted a DH during the playoffs. And he probably could have. He just couldn't really run that much. But you would have put him in the box, and he's got some strength in his legs, he would have been really good probably. So we just want him to play a Gold Glove outfield and so on. But I think once we get to spring training, and we get to the month of February, we'll know then, and I'll get asked about it then. I'll know exactly. We might say, look, he's ready for opening day, he's full go, he's 2 weeks behind, and so on, but I'm optimistic the way it's going.
So you probably won't be able to, you know, answer it fully, but just as a fan looking at our payroll, it's a lot of money, so I'm just curious how that will affect us.
Yeah, so, because obviously when this happened, we talked to MLB, like, I know I'm going to get media requests and so on. They basically were very clear. I'm like, can I tell people this? Said, we are not allowed to talk about it at all. Now, there will be a time, right? They handle everything. Once something like this happens, they grab the steering wheel, and we're off to the side, and we're in the dark. And they go through their process, they go through everything, and once that's done, which is not done yet, clear at some point it will be, they'll come out with their findings, investigation, announcement, then I'm gonna be able to speak on it. The organization will be able to speak on it. So as we sit here today, he's under contract, he's being paid, you know, but beyond that, that piece is obviously a huge piece going forward. And obviously, I want to say more, but I can't. So, because I was like, can I say anything? And like, you cannot say a thing. So, and no one can say a thing, and it's very clear that's what we put in a statement. So, I can tell you this. Look, I've said this, our payroll is going up. Our payroll continues as much as I know people, you know, or media sometimes will get talked about, well, we should be spending more. It's the most money we've spent on payroll in the history of the organization. We've gone up every single year. I mean, from 20 to 21, it went down at the start, but it went back up again, right? So we've gone up every single year I've been here, and guess what? We're gonna go up again. So that's to be expected with a good competitive team, and when you have all these young players that get the salary arbitration, they're gonna start making more money. So I still feel really good about the fact that we can build a good team. And I feel really good about the fact that when I've needed dollars at the trade deadline, I've gotten them every single time. So, but I don't just go in there and say I want to make a trade for the sake of doing a trade, but I've always had the money to work with. So will it be, you know, are we going to spend $300 million on payroll? No, of course not. But we continue to climb and go up, and we continue to keep our players, and hopefully we're going to continue to sign our young players. Those are things we have to factor as well. You guys asked about Anderson and Fried, or guys like Riley. You know, at some point we're going to want to keep these guys long term too. So I expect there will be more discussions and all those things, and I feel good about that. I was asked about, in terms of we have a lot of young outfielders coming and so on. So one thing I think over time, so this is my 10th season as a GM, so I've learned a lot because I failed a lot. And the one thing I've learned is I would rather not count on young players going into seasons where you're trying to win.
I know the media tends to say, well, Liberty Media would just open up their purse strings and things like that. The way this works, the way this business works, is myself, Mike, Terry, and Alex all sit around a table with our CFO, and we basically say, here's how the business is going to run, here's how much revenue that we have, here's how much expense we have, and then we figure out how much that allows Alex to have from a player payroll perspective. We don't then dial up Liberty Media and go, hey, we need $10 more or whatever, right? $10 probably even going to do the Freddie Freeman thing, but my point is, it's not a negotiation that we have with Liberty Media. What Alex was talking about earlier, I think, was really, really important, and that is when we saw, and this he can speak to this really, really well. When we were approaching the trade deadline, the reason why we were able to do the things that we were able to do, Alex specifically, is because we did so well from a business perspective the first half. And the reason we did so well is because all of you showed up. All of you came, all of you bought tickets. It's a pretty simple kind of equation. We looked at where we were and we said, okay, we're at one point in time for a little while, we were first in attendance throughout that quarter of, maybe a third of the season, and LA has about 10,000 more seats, so they ultimately caught up with us. But it was having those revenues and having the business fundamentals and the positive a way that our fan base turned out that allowed for us to go into the trade deadline and say, we can do this. We have money to deploy, and obviously the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah, and I mean, again, being here 4 years, I read stuff, I see stuff. I think when I tell the media, like Terry said, yeah, they own the team, but Terry, Mike, we get together. It's not. I don't deal with Liberty Media. I just don't. Like, I see the people from Liberty Media, they're nice people and so on. I deal with Terry McGurk, and when we're signing Ronald ACUNA, $100 million deal, I'm dealing with Terry. That's it. I haven't talked to anybody else. And he's what's great is that sometimes I need to move fast. I can tell you 2018 trade deadline, we got Gosman and O'Day. I think that was like $7 or $8 million. It was coming together fast, like 20 minutes before the deadline. All of a sudden the Orioles were willing to do a deal with us. I need $7, $8 million like this, like really fast. And I'm in a conference room and I run down to Terry McGurk's office, and in like 5 minutes I'm like, here's the deal, this is what it's gonna cost. He didn't say, okay, hold on a second, let me get on the phone. He said, go, done. Like, that was it. So this thought that we're calling them up or doing those things, it's wrong. And even though I tell media that I report to Terry and so on, and he sets payroll, and obviously working with Derek and Mike and everybody else, no one wants to believe us, but I mean, it's true. I mean, I've said it 100 times and I can't say it enough. It's just, that's the way it works. So again, and just like Derek, talked about, obviously we had no idea going from 2020 to 2021, attendance was 25% at the beginning, the payroll was lower, and because look, there was a lot of changes in the world, in the industry, and that just was reality. And when things changed, the exciting part, if I'm a fan, is that they didn't say, oh, let's take that money and let's pay down debt, or let's go, buy another building, or let's put it back in the team. And that was, we weren't doing well, right? It was middle of July. It would have been so easy to say, we're doing so much better in attendance, we're well ahead of what we thought, let's put that money into some other areas. The first thought was put it back into the team. And that's Terry, Derek, Mike, CFO, Jill, that's how it went down. So that's just the truth. And I'm gonna keep saying it when I get asked, and I'm gonna say it and they're gonna write something else.